Here we are ready to make our first part, and I want to give some kind of a high-level view of how we do things in Inventor. So I'm going to close this screen here and get back to the original screen, and I want to show you a slide here that illustrates pretty well the flow that we use to create parts. So the very first thing is we make a 2D sketch, a very simple 2D sketch in general. And then we use, it says here, create a basic feature. In this particular project we're going to use extrude, which is the most common form of just making something three-dimensional. We take a two-dimensional surface, or a two-dimensional figure, and we extrude it in a third dimension, and that's what we've done here. And then we choose a face on the subsequent part created, and we say create new sketch, click here, and we can kind of repeat the process we did here. We can create a 2D sketch, and then we can create a new feature. Here we just extruded downward with a circular 2D sketch, so we get a hole. And then after a few more steps, we've managed to extrude in through everywhere except that hole and the periphery of the part. I think that was done using the shell command. Bottom line is that your sketches need to be very simple. So you don't want to consider this a drawing program and have a whole bunch of stuff that you draw and then try to extrude, because you won't be able to differentiate among the various parts that you want to extrude. So the bottom line is short, simple sketches, do an extrusion or some other 3D mechanism which we'll learn about later, make a subsequent 2D sketch on one of the thus created or just created surfaces, and repeat and continue. Okay, so let me get out of that area. We don't need that there. So I'm going to create a new part, standard part, create. And what we're going to do, as you'll recall from the puzzle cube, is we're going to create parts consisting of 4, 5, and 6 cubes, 3/4 inch in diameter on an edge. So I'm going to make a simple one here, and I want to show you the process for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a useful tool called the rectangle. So I'm going to click a rectangle here, and the way this works is it just takes practice. Typically I go to the origin and I come over until I hit the point at which the big green dot appears, and I left click. That makes a constraint which constrains that corner to the origin, which is fine. And now I just pull my mouse over into the first quadrant, and I can start drawing here. Okay? So the one I'm going to make first is kind of an intermediate complexity, I suppose. And I'm going to come over 2 blocks, which would be 1.5 inches, since each block is 3/4 of an inch. Okay? So you can see up here, yeah, I wish I could have a pointer here, but you can see up there we've got the highlighted area. It's 1.521 inches. What I can do there is just put in 1.5. Okay? If I hit enter, it's going to close things out, so I want to use tab, and that'll tab me over to the vertical direction, and you can see right now it's 0.62 inches. I want 0.75. Now typically what I do is I'll tab back to the other one and see that both are correct. We have 1.5 inches horizontally, which is 2 cubes, and 0.75 inches vertically, which is 1 cube. Now I can left click to complete the other corner. And so my feature is completely blue, which means it's fully constrained. So it's constrained here at the origin, and I've constrained the size. So you notice I didn't have an arrow there in my cursor, and that was because I didn't do a right click OK to finish up. Okay? So I've created my simple 2D sketch, and I want to finish the sketch with this big green check mark. And it will look something like this. And I can look up to this tool, which we'll talk about more. It's the cube, which tells us the direction that we're at. So this is the front side here, and the right side will be over here. Okay, now we want to extrude this part to make it three-dimensional, just like that process flow showed. So we create a 2D sketch, and then we create our feature. So to do that, we extrude. It naturally chooses, if there's only one closed surface, it'll choose that one. For various reasons, I like to, first of all, it's got to be 3/4 of an inch. That's the size of our cube. I like to go inward, extrude inward. The default is outward. It turns out if you take my sim class and we start doing some milling, extruding inward helps. You'll notice that I can do everything I want here. So I can change the direction here. I can change the type of extrusion. I can change the size of the extrusion. But I can also do everything here. And I don't know why this has to be so has to be closed by default. But this one could be an easier one for you to work with. So this would go inward, outward. This will extrude them evenly. And so you can see there's a lot of choices. Just don't forget that this one is here. And it'll look like this. And then as you come close to this area here, a bunch of stuff will appear. So it's just intended to be a productivity tool. So coming back here, I'm going to go inward, 0.75 inches, and click OK. So right now I've got a 2x1 structure. I'm panning around by holding down the mouse wheel and moving. I like to make these things a certain color so I can differentiate among them. And so one way I've found is to go up here to the material choices and choose ABS plastic, and then I can go to the colors here. They tend to have more of the just basic colors. For example, green. Let's make this green. Okay. Now I'm not finished, so this is a very simple feature. What I'm going to do is add on to this by extruding further. So just like our process flow shows, I've basically gotten here. Now I need to choose a surface on which to create another 2D sketch in order to enhance my part and get to where I want to be. So I'm going to create a 2D sketch. I'm going to choose the top surface, and you can see it turns nicely and presents me with some graph paper. I'm going to make a rectangle, and here I'm going to go to the corner here, and you can see the green dot appears. I'm going to left click, and I'm going to pull out, and I'm obviously going to make this 0.75 by 0.75. Now Inventor can do that for you. I think it just did it for me there, or you can just force it by keying in those values. But Inventor knows that the center point of a structure is where you might want to be. So you can see I'm 0.75 by 0.75, so I'm just going to accept that. Left click, right click, OK. Again, all the blue means this is fully constrained. It's constrained at the corner, and the sizes are constrained. And you want to have fully constrained. If you see blue here, then that's green for your lines. That means it's not fully constrained, which not the end of the world, but We'll get in more to that later. So I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm going to extrude. Now it doesn't know what to choose to extrude because there's multiple choices. There are multiple closed surfaces. I'm going to choose this one. Inventor's smart enough to know that I did 0.75 last time, so I'm going to do it again. And now I can just check OK here, or I can check OK here. I'm going to be kind of slick and do it over here. I got OK. Alright, so that's a common one we've seen for 3, but we're doing 4 cubes. What I'm going to do is make another 2D sketch on this surface, and I'm going to take the rectangle, come in, green dot, makes a constraint, come up here, green dot, makes another constraint. You can see we have 0.7, 0.75. Left click, right click, OK. Finish sketch. Extrude. Choose the selection. It's 0.75. I'm going to accept it. And now this is my part. So I'm going to come up to my little house here. If I click the house, it puts me in full isometric view. I can choose to look at the front, or I can use these tools to go to the right and the back, the top. These aren't particularly illuminating. One thing that is illuminating to me, at least, is the ability to choose this tool here and move it around in many ways. So if I'm outside the circle, it's a rotation. If I'm inside, it's sort of a rotation. So we've got our first part. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, and so this is one you're going to want to make on your own. Right click, OK. Now I can hit the save key. So you can see we're in Puzzle Cube project, and I'm going to call this part 1-4 for 4 cubes, and save it. Now if I go to my let's see, if I go to my Z drive and then Inventor, and I go to my Puzzle Cube area, interesting, Puzzle Cube project files, it's right there. Okay. So let's see, what is that? Oops. Okay, there's our project file. And here's our part. Okay. So we're good to go. We've just made a part, and you'll make a total of 8 of these for 4 cubes, and then that should take up quite a bit of time, and you should learn a lot in doing so. We'll move on to assemblies of these pieces in the next screencast.